Hey everybody, I'm taking a page out of Amy Beth from the Fat Squirrel Speaks book today, and I'm going to start my video out a little bit differently. I just wanted to be very upfront with everyone so that you can decide if you want to continue to support my podcast or not. Since I haven't had a chance to record, I haven't spoken to this issue, but I support what Ravelry has chosen to do. That is their prerogative as a business, and it aligns with my personal beliefs. And if you watch this podcast, I don't think that comes as a shock to anyone. So I just wanted to inform you so that you could decide if you wanted to spend your time watching me from now on. If you don't, then that's great, and you're perfectly entitled to your belief, and I hope that we can part as friends, and I will wish you well. But I'm not really up for a debate on trying to change my mind, because you're not going to change it, and I'm pretty sure I won't change yours. Now, to speak to why, Amy put it in a good way. We are working in a lot of shadow work right now. Do I believe that everybody that votes a certain ticket is running around in a white sheet burning crosses? No, I do not. There are people who vote a more conservative line because of their religious beliefs, because of their beliefs on abortion, because of their beliefs on the economy, because of their beliefs on the military, and that's totally fine, and I totally respect your choice. However, I feel that the policies of this particular administration have been very detrimental to a lot of communities that I support, including people of color, including LGBT people, including disabled people, including people living in poverty, the scientific community, also people who are not part of a traditional religious community. And therefore, I do not at all support this administration. Now, that being said, if you do and we can all get along, then great. But I will not tolerate hate speech. Also being said, I don't tolerate hate speech or bullying from anyone, whether that is people on the far right, the far left, or the middle. I mean, as a farmer who raises beef cattle, I don't tolerate people who are vegan wanting to bully people about their food choices. So that is my prerogative. This is my platform, and y'all know that I'm going to say what I think. But at any rate, I do support the situation. You can agree to disagree with me if you don't. My group will continue to be active on Ravelry. I will not be moving to any other platforms, and I will probably not participate in any groups that do move to other platforms. That's just my choice. I don't feel like that is a productive use of my time, and it doesn't represent what I particularly believe in. I'm standing out here in front of my sign. I had this sign painted several years ago, and I stand by it, and that's my belief system, and that's what I'm going to choose to validate and support, and I don't think this surprises any of y'all. Now, for those of you who get frustrated and say, can't we just all knit? I don't want this to be political. I just come here for the knitting or the crocheting or the crafting. Well, aren't you fortunate that you're able to walk away from a situation? And if I wanted to, I could do that, but because I have the ability to walk away from a situation and say, oh, I'm just going to worry about my crafting, or I'm just going to worry about myself, that to me is all the more reason why I should take up the mantle of those who don't have the ability to walk away from a situation and speak out in support of them, even if it costs me viewers, even if it costs me subscribers. That's the chance you got to take when you do this. That's my thought. People who say it's not your problem, well, it's humanity. It's my problem. I'm a human being, and I would remind you of the parable of the Good Samaritan. There were people passed by the man who needed assistance, and they said, that's not my problem. I'm just going to walk on the other side of the road and get back to what I need to do. But finally, someone who was not even a friend of this person, who was of a race of people who was a sworn enemy to that person, stopped and showed that person kindness and compassion and empathy and helped them, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we're on this little rock hurtling through space together, and we got to get along. And if the least of us is suffering, then we're all suffering, in my opinion, and we need to fix that. So anyway, Shadow work is never fun, but it's always productive and it's always useful. And so here it is. I laid it out as clear as I could say it. Probably didn't say it as eloquently as a lot of other people, but if you're still with me, we're going to get on with this week's episode. Peace out, y'all. Bye. Hey everybody, it's that time again. It's time for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. My name is Deborah and I live here on my family farm in the foothills of the Arkansas Ozarks, where I like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt, I make baskets, I make jewelry. I'll try any craft once and twice if I like it. I am also a university professor of physics and astronomy at a local university, where I teach classes to both physics majors and general education classes. And you don't need any of that candy. Get out of that. And I'd like to talk about issues about science literacy and women in STEM. And I am also a farmer. I am a third generation family farmer here on this land that my family has lived on for over a century, where I raise grass-fed beef cattle, I raise horses, I have show quality rabbits, I have a flock of heritage poultry, and I also own a retirement home for a herd of miniature horses, miniature donkeys, a miniature mule named Pumpkin who thinks she rules the roost, and Princess Penny the potbelly pig. And I am also, as you can tell from my nosy and fiddly furry co-host here, Willie, I am fur kid mom to 13 dogs, 7 indoor cats, and an undetermined number of outside cats. So if any of all of that sounds interesting to you, and you're still hanging with me after my opening salvo, let's move on to episode number 45 of Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. Okay, the light's being a little weird because we just got through having a little afternoon pop-up thunderstorm, so the light's kind of getting brighter and dimmer as the clouds blow by. Anyway, if you're looking for me on social media, you can find my farm Facebook page, which is the same as my YouTube channel name, Buckthorn Farms. You can also find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as Doc Firewoman. There is a Ravelry group for the podcast, Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, where you can find out about make-alongs or giveaways that I might be doing. All that information will be there. I am probably most active on Instagram. I have been very poor about keeping up with Ravelry the last couple of weeks, and I sincerely apologize because I like to try to see what's going on there. We'll talk more about that in Farm Life. There's just been a lull kind of in my energy level the last couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that. And I am also on Twitter, and despite what you may think after watching the opening salvo of this podcast today, I try to keep my political rantings to a minimum, but I do speak out on issues that I think are important, because I don't think social justice warrior is a dirty word, and so I speak out when I think it's important. But most of my political ranting and raving is held to a minimum, except on Twitter, where I kind of go a little bit wild. So you can check me out there, because if you don't mind that, because I am a big old left-leaning liberal and vote Democratic, and so I tend to align myself with things in that direction. But if that kind of stuff gives you heartburn, avoid Twitter. As simple as that, right? You know, I can get along with everybody unless you wish me or people that I love or animals or the land harm. If you wish us harm or death, I'm not going to get along with you. But other than that, I can get along with anybody, even if we don't agree on everything. We can probably find some common ground. But if you wish people harm, I don't want to talk to you. Hopefully that's none of y'all. Anyway, so we're going to move on and talk a little bit about some different make-alongs. I'm going to cut this here and see what the problem is with my battery, and I'll tell you about some make-alongs. Okay, in make-along news, I'm only going to talk about my make-alongs this week. A lot of the other ones have ended, and I didn't really research the make-along situation. Other people's podcasts are very good this week, so I don't want to get anything wrong or leave anything out. So first of all, the informal Earth Along ended yesterday, which was my 50th birthday, and we only had 2 people enter Earths, Shirley and Nancy, both good friends of mine from a virtual knit night that I'm part of. So I have decided that they're both going to win a prize. So Shirley and Nancy, you both win a prize, a set of the custom stitch markers. Willie, what are you doing? Come here. Come here. Get out of that. He's milling around. Come here. Come here. You need to be up here anyway. Come here. People watch this podcast to see you more than me. Come here. Oh, Lord. Okay. Oh, we're hung up. Hang on. There we go. Okay. So, I'm going to send y'all both a set of the stitch markers by DK Graham. So, I'll be getting in touch with y'all to get your, I think I have both your mailing addresses. But, anyway, I'll try to get those out next week or so to you. Also, the other make-alongs that I have going on that are running until the end of the year are Creature Feature, which is co-hosted with Laura from the Crocheting Whovian podcast. We are now switching to our 3rd quarter, which is Wild and Woolly. Are you telling them about it? Really? Okay. Wild and Woolly, which is any non-domesticated animal. So, can pretty wide open. It can be, you know, zebras or swans, or, I mean, it's pretty wide open. So y'all know how it goes. So Wild and Woolly, we did farm animals, we've done sea creatures. Our 4th quarter, if you want to plan ahead, is going to be mythical beasts, magical and mythical beasts. So you can plan ahead for that. So I've got to figure out what I'm going to make. I still haven't made my Texas Longhorn, so I may make him first and carry on the farm theme for just a little bit longer. I am terrible. I did not get my Farmer's Almanac post up. I need to work on that. Like I said, I have kind of reached an ebb in my energy, it seems like, lately, and I'm coming out of the other side of that now, so I'm ready to get back to getting some stuff done. But I haven't gotten I had to grade my online class first, and I had 150 or so projects to grade there, so that had to be done first. So I'm hoping to work on my Farmer's Almanac stuff tonight, and also put show notes up for the last podcast. And then next we have the Kit or Get Her Done, which is where we are aiming to make kits, use up our kits that we hoard. You know, as I've mentioned several times, like a dragon sitting on gold. I've got several kits. Several is not even the good descriptor. I have a lot of kits. But I am working on them. I have been working on things that are in kits, and one of my works in progress is a kit that I am almost done with, so that will be really good. Then we have I Like Big Shawls and I Cannot Lie, which I'm co-hosting with Vanessa from the A Historian Knits podcast. That's 1,200 yards plus in the pattern, knitted only shawls, so you can check that out. Then we have, last but not least, the Never Have I Ever. Never Have I Ever is where you use a new technique, or you use, try a new craft, or you maybe knit your first sweater, or whatever. So we have that as an option as well. So all of those are running until the end of the year. I give out quarterly prizes for Creature Feature and for, I believe it's the shawl one, and then there are random drawings for the other, monthly drawings for Farmer's Almanac and random drawings for the other 2 for pattern prizes. And then at the year end, there is going to be giveaways of physical prizes from a combined FO thread. I think I have FO threads up for most everything. If not, I will make sure I put those up. I will get on Ravelry either tonight or tomorrow and work on those. So, yeah, so those are my make-alongs. Probably going to start a charity make-along toward fall time, but right now I think I've got enough balls in the air, as it were. So, anyway, what are you doing? You can't have those red hots. Anyway, so we're going to move on now and get started. Oh, you're going to fall. Get started with a couple of finished objects. Okay, so as I mentioned, I kind of hit a lull in my energy, so I don't have very much to show you in terms of crafting content this week. Willie, please get off those feed sacks. Come here. Buddy, you need to leave them alone. I've got some feed sacks stacked up over there that I want to make feed sack bags out of, and I've washed them and I've got them stacked up to use, and he's climbing around on them making racket. But anyway, as I mentioned, my energy's kind of been at a low ebb since the last podcast. Okay, come here. Well, come here. You know, I go to the barn and I'm usually there by 6 a.m., which means, come here. Well, come here. Which means I get up at about 4:30, 4:45. And I'm usually at the barn by 6, getting up and feeding horses. And then we teach lessons and riding classes until about 11. And then, you know, well, until about 10:30. And then we spend 30 minutes doing all the barn chores, cleaning up, dumping the buckets, cleaning the stalls, doing all that kind of stuff, putting horses back out, and so forth and so on. So then if I have to go get feed, or I have to run any errands or whatever, I do that. And then as soon as I get home, I've fed before I left usually and filled up water for everybody. And then when I get home, I go around and give them sort of a midday snack plus fill up water. Again, because, you know, when it gets hot here, they go through their water fairly quickly. And by that time, it's like 2 o'clock, and we're getting into the hotter part of the day, and I'm pretty well tapped out. You know, I've pretty well put in a full day at that point. And so I've been kind of coming in and sleeping a little bit in the afternoons. And I used to feel, or I was sort of led to feel, that was laziness. You know, that was a sign of my laziness, and I wasn't getting very much done, and that I shouldn't do that. But I'm kind of the opinion, if your body is telling you that it's tired and you need to rest, then that's what you need to do. And you don't need to let people make you feel bad for that. So, you know, I usually sleep maybe an hour and a half, and then I get up and I do some things in the afternoon. Usually I feed, you know, do the evening feeding, and then fix dinner. And you know, lately I've been working on some cross stitch, which goes a little bit slower for me, so I don't have that much to show. So that was a long description about why I've only got 2 FOs this week. But the first one that I have is my first completed Shave 'em to Save 'em project. It's kind of hard to tell much about it because I haven't washed it yet or starched it, but it is the Crocheted Stash Basket by Purl Soho. And this is yarn that is black Welsh Mountain yarn. So it is a yarn that I purchased from Desert Wear Farms, directly from the purchaser. And I used the entire 4-ounce skein. All I had left was this much. So I kept going around. This is a free pattern available on Purl Soho's website. The bottom of it's really meant for heavier weight yarn. This was a sport weight. It was really meant for worsted weight, so it would have been a little bit larger. But I've got about a 9-inch base, and then the sides are about 4.5 or so inches. And so I need to wash this and block it, and I bought some liquid starch. And what I'm going to do is starch it, and I think what I'm going to do is sit it down inside a 5-gallon bucket and put some things in it to kind of hold it out up against the sides of the bucket. And then that will give it hopefully a shape that I will like. Good old 5-gallon bucket. It's the duct tape of buckets. You know, it's good for everything. You can sit on them, you can stand on them, you can carry stuff in them, you can carry puppies, you can carry carrots. You can carry whatever you want to carry in a 5-gallon bucket. It is the all-purpose farm tool. But anyway, so I've completed that. It's got just a fairly simple design on the side here with rows of eyelets and so. But anyway, so I thought that would be kind of a unique use for this. Black Welsh Mountain is a pretty rusticy wool, so it is not a wool that you might want up against your skin directly, but it's very often used for rugs and things like that. So I thought a basket would be a perfect application of it. It does try to almost sit up, but it's a little bit flimsy, so I thought the liquid starch might give it just a little bit extra oomph to stand up straight. So that is my first finished object, the Crocheted Stash Basket. Now my other finished object is I made several feed sack bags, but they have gone off in the mail to people. And I also made a project bag, which has gone off in the mail to someone, so I can't show those. But I did make myself, finally, a feed sack bag. I really love this game bird bag with a turkey. It's got a turkey and a pheasant and a California quail, and I think they call those chuckers at the bottom. And I just lined it with some like lightweight denim fabric and gave myself some webbing handles. I've got one more of these. I usually ended up giving them all away, so I finally made myself one. I like the webbing for the handles, and then like I said, I box the bottoms so they're a little bit deeper, and they're great for groceries. They're great to carry just kind of all purpose. Miss Marianne carries hers around just with stuff in it. So it's a great rugged bag, plus it's water resistant on the outside. And so I've got several more bags washed. I just need to get them sewn up and make myself a few more, so I'll have some more grocery bags. But anyway, that's really the only two finished objects I have to show you this week. I've got a few works in progress. I've mostly been focusing my efforts on a couple of things, and so I haven't really gotten much done, but I want to show you what I have worked on, and we'll move on. So we're going to move on to works in progress. Okay, so I guess where I was thinking about where most of my energy has been, I've actually started deep cleaning the house. Every time I go to an estate sale, it makes me want to deep clean the house. So I went through all the bookshelves, and there are a lot of them. I went through all the knick-knack shelves and all the places I've got plates and dessert sets squirreled away and cleaned out very thoroughly. I've started on my kitchen as well. I scrubbed the den down and vacuumed the sofa and did a bunch and dusted and everything. So that's kind of where my energy has been the last week or so, trying to get that done. I've kind of set myself goals for each day about what I want to get done. So I haven't been just laying around eating bonbons, which that would be okay too if I were, because sometimes you just got to do that. But one of my works in progress, I am getting close to being finished on this little piece of cross stitch. I'm working on the back stitching. As you can see, I've got all the animals done. I'm working on the back stitching right now, getting that completed. And then it's got a little phrase. I think it says, prayer is asking for rain and faith is taking an umbrella. So I'm going to get that finished up, and I think what I'm going to do is finish that as a little sort of sachet wall hanging, perhaps. Put some lavender. I've been drawing some lavender from out of my garden in it, and finish that as a little wall hanging. We'll see. But that's kind of where my mind is on that. So that's one of my works in progress. Fix that back in the hoop. The other one, which is also needlework related, another one is my horse. I'm still working on my horse. I'm still back stitching into these flowers here, so I've got a little bit more of that done. Once I get done with this section, the rest of it's going to go pretty fast. The tail has some details in it, but the rest of it's basically just a simple outline. So once I get the roses done, I'll pretty well be mostly done with this. So I'm going to try to work on these things, I think, tonight and get some more done. Okay, I do have one more to show. I'm going to have to reach around here and get it because I forgot to take it off the frame. So, Willie, hang on, buddy. Oh, you're going to have to get down, son. Hang on just a sec. Okay, it's a good thing I paused this because I had to wrestle with this scroll frame to get this out of there. But I have made some progress on my butterfly needlework. Okay, I've completed these 3 butterflies, and I've started on these up here and here. Okay. I bought myself some needle pullers to go on my fingers. They're like a thimble, but they're silicone, and they give me enough grip to pull the needle through, because my hands were getting really sore pulling these needles through, especially when you get really tight places where you'd already gone through the hole with another yarn. So those have sped up my work very appreciably. So that's where I'm at on this. I just work on that every little while. I realize that trying to get that done for the fair is probably a pointless exercise. That's not going to happen. But that's my needlework stuff. So my knitting, the only thing that I've really picked up, I kind of quit knitting for about a week or so, working on other things. But I did yesterday when we went on a little road trip for my birthday. I took with me my fading point and worked just a little bit on it. I finished my stash basket on the way, and part of the way back, and then when I got done with it, I had taken my fading point with me and just added a few rows to it. So the last time you guys saw it, if I can get a hold of it, was right here. So you can see I just added about 8 or so rows to it. This is the Fading Point by Joji Locatelli. It's a very large shawl. It's 2,000 yards. It's got 5 different colors in it. I am still on color 1. This is Leon Alexander Yarns, and this one is called Salem, and it's part of his All Hallows Eve collection. I am just getting ready to start the next lace panel, and then I'll start fading in color number 2, which is this blue. It's going to be a bright, loud shawl, y'all. It's going to be this blue. This is called City of Lights. And I've wound 2 separate balls because this shawl is made in 2 pieces. Or, well, it's made in 2 wedges and then you knit them together. So, and I'm keeping that in my bag that I won from the Happy Knits podcast. And I like what this says. Strive for progress, not perfection, and any progress is progress, even if it's just a few rows. So those are all my works in progress this week, and so we will come back and I will show you a couple of future crafting. Okay, so in future crafting, I'm going to show you one fibery project and then a couple of sewing projects, and they'll kind of eat over into my acquisitions a little bit because we had a road trip yesterday that I'll tell you about. My first future crafting project is in this gorgeous sparkly planet bag that was a gift to me from Mary, and in it is a pair of socks. It is the Fernway socks by the Knitting Expat. This was from her Wanderlust Sock Club from last year, which I didn't complete because I'm not as enthralled with knitting socks as I guess I should be. But at any rate, I am going to knit these out of, this is Knit Picks, and this colorway is called Beyond the Wall. Okay, I think that may be a Game of Thrones reference, but if not, I like the reference in our day-to-day world anyway. So so this real pretty blue, gray, white striping color. So I've got the toe started, but that's all. I just barely cast them on, but I am going to try to complete those sometime soon, or at least get back to them, because yesterday when we were going on the road trip, I realized that I didn't really have a good, if I finished my stash basket, I didn't know if I had a good travel project. Plus, I'm getting ready to go to a conference, and these will be good to take to the conference and work on while I'm at the conference. So, yeah, so the Fernway socks by the Knitting Expat. Then, my sewing kind of is dipping into my acquisitions a little bit, but I'll show you these. My friend Carol has a granddaughter, and Halloween is coming up. And yesterday I saw this printed panel for a costume for a little girl. Is that not cute? It's got the little fiery cape and the little devil horn bonnet, and I said, oh my goodness, I will totally make that. Anyway, I thought it was just adorable. So it is a printed panel. It's a VIP printed panel. It was the only one they had of it, and I snapped it up. Carol wouldn't let me buy it. She said, I'll buy it and you make it. So I'm like, okay, deal. Then I also found a advent calendar, and I kind of jokingly said, between what I spent yesterday at the fabric store and I bought some timers, which I'll talk about in the farm section about for the Rainbow Riders, that was my advent calendar. But I found these printed panels of advent calendars where you sew the little pockets on, and I got 3 of those because you had to buy the whole piece. It was the deal. It was a mill end and you had to buy the whole piece. So I purchased that, and I don't know who this is by. Let me see if it's got the brand on it. The Henley Studio, Macaur, UK. So anyway, mill end piece, so you had to buy all of it. They wouldn't cut it, so I bought 3 of them. So that'll be a neat thing to make up, and I'll probably make up one for the fair if we see if I get it done, and one for gifts. My other 2 that I want to try to make are a couple of dolls. The first one I have already made. Is it this one I've already made? Yeah. This one? Yes. I've already made one of these a long time ago, but I want to make a new one. This is, what's her name? I don't know. Oh, Willow the Witch. Willow the Witch is here. And she's another little printed panel that you just cut out all the pieces and make her up. Because y'all know I love the Halloween. And then this other one is her friend. Oh no, this is the one I've made. Broomzelda. I have made Broomzelda. So I'm going to make another one up of Broomzelda. Because you can never have too many witch dolls, in my opinion. So I've got to get her made up. That's her little dress. And then you can see her body parts there you cut out. And make her up as a doll. So that'll be fun. I want to try to get those made. I'm kind of in the mood to sew right now. I finally got a light bulb for my sewing machine. So I'm really happy about that. And I can see now to sew correctly instead of having to shine a light on there. So that's all my future crafting. So we're going to move on and talk just a little bit about acquisitions. I'm not going to show you all the fabric I bought yesterday. Trust. It was a lot. So we're going to move on. Okay, so in acquisitions, I'm going to show some purchases, but I'm also going to show some birthday gifts. I got a very sweet birthday gift today in the mail. This is from Antonia. It's an infinity scarf that she made, and it's got women calculating how to get to the moon on there. Is that not awesome? The fabric feels delicious. It feels maybe like jersey a little bit. It's very soft to the skin, or brushed cotton. But it's the women doing the hidden figures calculations on how to get to the moon. So you can see them there. Yeah, so I got that today in the mail along with a very nice card. So thank you, Antonia, for the gift. I really appreciate it. My friend Carol, besides the boxes of Red Hots that she got me, she also got me a new card. And in case y'all didn't know, yesterday was a birthday with a 0 at the end of it. I was 50 years old yesterday. And so now I can say whatever I want. Somebody told me, as if I didn't do that already. But anyway, so she got me this card. She got me a whole bunch of Red Hots and hot tamale candies because she knows that I love those. Plus she bought me lunch and drove yesterday. And she got me a Wonder Woman pop socket. I can't wait to put that on my phone. I've got to get a new phone case because my phone case is getting kind of ratty looking. So but she got me a Wonder Woman pop socket, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so then Patsy, who is one of my friends from Ravelry and from the podcast, sent me a beautiful card, and then sent me some very cool clay pottery items. And this really touched me because, and I told her in the letter that I wrote her, when I lived in Oklahoma, I was very homesick for Arkansas, and I went to a craft show where someone had items of clay made from Arkansas clay. Well, these are Alabama, from the area where she's at. Look at those. Isn't that beautiful clay? And that's a little penguin. And then she also sent, in honor of Princess Penny, the piggy. And these are from Carl's Clays, and they are out of Alabama, and they are all made of local clay. Okay, so there's the piggy. Yep, there's the piggy from Elmore County, Alabama. Handcrafted natural clay color, presented both in clear of was handcrafted in natural clay color. Okay, preserved with glaze. Okay, so there you go. Can't read. Isn't that neat? I love that. She said her sister sent a couple. Let me see what it said. My sister sent the armadillo, and I gifted the pig and the penguin. So thank you, Patsy. Let me show you the armadillo too. He's just stinking adorable. It made me think of that pottery that I bought when I was so homesick at the craft fair in Oklahoma. And I still have those two pieces. Look at that. Is that not amazing? Those are going to have a very special place of honor in my house. So thank you so much, Patsy. I just love those. They are adorable and amazing. So thank you so much for my creatures. You know I love the critters. So okay. Then Vanessa sent me a very sweet gift from the Historian Knits podcast. She sent me several things. But the things that I'll share with you are here. She sent me some socks. These are Space. And these are Pitties. Piggy, piggy, piggy in the mud. It's like Penny the Pig loving her mud. Okay. Then she said she had some sock tubes cranked. So she sent me some sock tubes just to try them out. Okay. They're Freckled Whimsy is who cranked these. Okay. So she sent me, this yarn is online is what it's called, and it's 75/25, and the colorway is called Circle. Okay, so anyway, so I've never used sock tubes, so looks like fun to me. I'll try those out. Might get a pair of socks finished. And then of course she sent me a very sweet card, which is very touching, with a little Sonic surprise inside of it. And one of the coolest things is this cool bag. This is, she said, is by one of her favorite bag makers. And a project bag for one of my favorite makers, Missy from Minnesota. It's a bear. Look at him. And then he's in the woods. Bear in the woods. And she sent me some other things too. So those are the ones I wanted to share with you. So I thought that was all very sweet. I was very touched that anyone remembers my birthday. You know, I've talked about this last year. My birthdays were not always the best days for some reason. My mom always tried to make them really great, and she always would call me at 8 o'clock in the morning. And of course, since she's been gone, that is something that I really miss. And she always made me a chocolate cake with white 7-minute frosting on it. So last year at the barn party, one of the kids and her mother made me that same cake, which I thought was super, super sweet. But this year we're going to have a barn party, but I decided to move it because one of the young ladies couldn't be there. She had gone to a summer program that she wasn't going to be back until mid-July, and she was really despondent that she was going to miss the party. I said, well, we can just move it. It's fine. So we're doing Roaring 20s. I've got to get my dress made. I showed the fabric, I think, the Art Deco fabric. So anyway, a couple of things that have come in the mail that I have purchased I got my next installment of the Leon Alexander Roll for Inspiration Yarn Club, and this is Cypress the Druid. And isn't this beautiful? Just yarn. It looks like the woods. He does such beautiful work. His yarn is so vibrant and so colorful. He's just one of my favorites ever. So got that from Logan. And then I had special ordered some yarn from a Magpie Knits, who is my friend Agatha out of Shreveport. She did a custom dye for me, and you can find her shop on Etsy. She has some lovely yarn in there as well. I had asked her for a green, a very specific green, because this is going to be a gift for someone. It's going to be a gift for Miss Marianne, and she loves green. So I think this is her colorway called Evergreen. It's just a shade darker than that, though. So she did this special dye for me. So if you're looking for a special dye set, holler at Agatha. She'll fix you right up. Then I was doing so good with Noelle's Charmed and Dangerous Charms, but she had a secret surprise charm club thingamajigger that was narwhals. You could choose a mermaid or a narwhal, and I saw the word narwhal and immediately lost any self-control that I had. But she surprised me and sent me both of, whoops, my narwhal, man down, man down. Okay, here we go. Try that again. She sent me both of them. She sent me the narwhal and the mermaid for my birthday. So that was really sweet, Noelle. Thank you so much. I love her charms. They're just totally stinking cute. So, yeah. Now, let's talk about this here fabric thing from yesterday a minute. Ever since I've moved back home, I have heard about this fabric store in Batesville, Arkansas. And Batesville, you know, it's I could tell y'all it was kind of like about the size of Clarksville, which would not mean anything to any of y'all. It's probably 8,000 to 10,000 people. It's not a huge town. It's over in northeast Arkansas, in an area that is kind of a rift valley, because the North American plate tried to rift through what is now eastern Arkansas, eastern Missouri. It's called the Reelfoot Rift. So it's kind of mountainous, and all of a sudden it flattens out into this river valley. The White River runs through there. Batesville is not the easiest place to get to from here. There's really no major artery that runs from this side of the state there, unless you want to go way over into eastern Arkansas and then go north. So you have to be wanting to get there, in other words. But anyway, so I've heard all my coming back, since I've been back, about this fabric store that's in Batesville. And oh, they've got all this fabric. And oh, they've got, they've got cheap fabric. And I mean, not like inexpensive fabric, not cheap. And Carol said, well, let's do something for your birthday. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, we could go to Tulsa, or we could go up to Northwest Arkansas. And Monday night, I was sitting around thinking, I said, let's go to that fabric store. I've been wanting to go to that fabric store, and we've talked about it and talked about it. Let's just go. So we did. She was kind enough to drive. The store is called Marshall Dry Goods. It has been owned by the same family since it opened in 1944. And they specialize in cotton. They particularly cater to quilters, and they are an international presence. They have customers from all over the world. They manufacture textiles. They do it both domestically and overseas. They design a lot of the patterns that they have for sale. And the neat thing, and what makes it so good for quilters, is they specialize in 108-inch wide bolts of fabric for quilt backing. So 108 inches is what? See, 8 feet would be 96, so 9 feet would be 108. It's 9 feet wide. So 9 feet wide, and so pretty much any quilt that you're going to make, that's going to be plenty big enough for the backing. Which is wonderful, because one of the things that people don't like to do is to piece together their backs. So I thought, well, I'll go and I'll get some fabric. Well, what they do is they have a wholesale side, but you don't have to be a wholesaler. You just have to set up an account with them. But if you buy from the wholesale side, you have to purchase the entire bolt of 15 yards. Or you have to, they have these bundles of quilters cottons, and they have like the beautiful batiks, and they have all these beautiful pre-bundled fabrics that are 100-yard bundles. So you have to buy the whole bundle. You can't split the bundle up. The bundles are $1.95 a yard. So 100 yards would cost you $195. Then any of their fabrics, 45 inches wide or $2.45 a yard. The 108-inch wide is $4.50 a yard. Then they have some other like year-end, or not year-end, but closeout fabrics that are from other manufacturers. They have Michael Miller, they have Riley Blake, they have all these different ones. They have bolts of this stuff, and it's between $2.50 and $3.50 a yard, depending on the manufacturer. In other words, much cheaper than you're going to find it anywhere. They also sell big rolls of batting. I noticed on here they had 30-yard rolls of poly cotton batting. That's 96 inches wide, so 8 feet wide, for $99 a roll. Now, you had to have a truck or something to haul it. You can't, just it's on a roller. So, but they do sell those. I think it's folded in half, so it's 4 feet. But they do sell those to the public, and that's much cheaper than you're going to find it in the bags. Like if you buy a bag of Mountain Mist or whatever it is. Excuse me. They also have polyester batting in the rolls. They have smaller widths and things like that. They have Warm and Natural. They also have cotton. They have some different ones, and you can buy that. So pretty much you can buy anything there on the wholesale side, but you have to buy all of it. Then they have a retail side where you buy cut pieces, and the cut pieces are less expensive than you would get them at any fabric store. Unless, I mean, even when they're on sale, they're comparable, and this is their everyday price. So yeah, so I did quite a bit of damage. I'll just show you a couple of things that I got. I did get, it's still in the packaging because I don't want to unpackage it. I did get a bolt of the 108 inch wide. It's a kind of a creamy neutral with some little flower white on white designs on it, because I thought that would work for several different quilts. But I did get a couple of other bolts. This one is stinking cute. I did an Instagram live video of all of these, but I thought this was super cute. Now I have no clue what I'm going to do with 15 yards of this, but it'll make some cute project bags. It'll make some good wide-legged pants to wear to work. Might make a dress. Who knows? I mean, yeah, crazier things have happened. Got that. Then I was walking to put a bolt up, and I walked by this bolt, and it's all horse stuff. So I thought that this would be really neat to make something for the kids at the barn out of. Like helmet bags or just anything for their year-end prizes. Let's see. The other thing that I'll show is the little growth charts. They had even, and now the thing about the commercial side, the commercial fabrics, there was no rhyme or reason. Now, there'd be a stack of a whole bunch of the same bolt, but as far as what was on a shelf together, there was Spider-Man and John Deere and animals and, you know, poker chips and everything else. This is a growth chart. It's a little woodland animals growth chart, and it's folded over. But I bought a whole bolt of these because I know several people with small kids, like, you know, not infants, but babies. I started to call them yearlings. That's what I call horses. Toddlers is what I think it's called. Toddlers. And then I know several people having babies. So I thought, well, I could probably find, you know, at least 8 or 9 people that would want one of those. So what's it going to hurt if I buy a whole bolt? And then I bought this one, and this was an impulse. It's a Christmas stuff. It's got different, it's one of those panel ones. Oh, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I don't need this many Christmas pillows. Maybe Christmas kitchen curtains. I don't know. But how could I pass up? I heard the bells on Christmas Day. And then there's kitty claws, and there's, you know, up on the rooftop with the cats and the dogs. So, I got some Halloween fabric. I got some cuts. Like I said, I did get some of the 108 inch wide stuff as well to finish some quilts that I was working on. So, I made a big trip out of it. Probably gonna regret that later when I'm eating ramen at the end of the summer, but you know, as my friend Scott told me yesterday when I was talking to him on the phone, you can't take it with you. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't take all this fabric with me either. I guess I could be like the pharaohs, and they could bury it with me in case I wake up in the afterlife and feel the need to make a growth chart for someone. Anyway, so Marshall's Dry Goods, it's been in the same family since 1944. They do have an online website that's very good. So if you want to look it up, it's Marshall Dry Goods, not Marshall's, but Marshall Dry Goods. MarshallDryGoodsWholesale.com, or you could probably just Google Marshall Dry Goods and find it. But they sell fabric all over the world, and they have people come in from all over the country that quilt, because they'll save, if they're serious quilters or they're a quilt club or they do like Quilts of Valor or something like that, they'll save hundreds or thousands of dollars on a single trip. You know, they might spend $700 and save $3,000 from buying it in a store. So they make it worthwhile. So it's kind of cool. I've got some video clips that I'll put in of the store after this clip segment, but we're going to move on and talk about farming. Well, we have arrived finally, no thanks to Google Maps sending us every wrong freaking way, at Marshall's. You can't see the sign. Marshall's Dry Goods, which is very famous in Arkansas for fabric. I've never been here, but we're gonna go check it out. It's got a historical marker. So apparently this place is so well known, they've got a map here that you put a pin in from where you're from. So,
Where's the pins?
oh, right over there.
I'm gonna put a pin in. for.
Oh. Hoopston. So that's cool. Look at all that.
Isn't that something?
Isn't that neat? So here we are.
Cool.
Okay, seriously, y'all, there's like 5 bajillion yards of fabric here. You can buy it by the bolt. We're in the wholesale section, which you don't have to be a wholesaler apparently to buy. You just have to buy like a bolt or a bundle, and it's super cheap. I'm screwed. I totally see why people come from all over the world to come here. There's just such a huge variety, and the prices are great. Wow. Okay, well, in the science part of my world, it's been kind of slow because I'm not working right now, but I have been paying attention to the weather systems we've been having, been watching these little, what you doing? Been watching these little afternoon pop-up thunderstorms we've been getting. Hi, buddy. What you say? You the good boy? He looks unconvinced. I've been watching these little afternoon thunderstorms that we've been having because it's classic, you know, afternoon air mass convective thunderstorms going on around here where you can watch the whole life cycle happen of the thunderstorms, and it's really quite beautiful to watch that process go on. I've also been reading about some different strategies for dealing with pests organically without trying to use chemicals on the farm. So my science and my farm life are kind of spilling over into each other there. You know, I've been keeping up with some of the things going on through SciShow and all of that stuff. So really what's going on with science is more about me keeping in contact with former students. I had mentioned last time I had a student contact me to write me a letter. Well, I had another one on Saturday night contact me. I guess maybe he'd had a beer and he was thinking about life, and he decided he would contact old Dr. Burris and say, hey, what do you think? Unfortunately, I did find out his father has developed colon cancer, which I think has kind of put a fire under him to go on and try to get into medical school. So I'm helping him get his portfolio ready for that, which is, you know, is not insignificant. Other than that, really, there's not been a lot going on. I do have my online class for one more week, and I've been grading their stuff and listening or reading their reflective essays about what they got out of the class. You know, some of the students don't take it very seriously, and they'll just write 1 or 2 lines, or they'll just summarize what the chapter was about. But some of them have really thought deeply about it. Like, one guy wrote that he had never been able to make sense of balancing chemical equations, and I had him do a little game online that showed how to do it. And he said that game, suddenly it all clicked and it made so much sense to me. So those are the kinds of moments where I think, you know, that's a game probably for high school kids, but, you know, to someone who is not a science major, it's just exactly what they needed to make it real for them in terms of how to make sense of that equation. So I thought that was a great thing to have happen. Also, I have not talked about this a whole lot, but I did apply to be a James Webb Telescope faculty fellow. I probably will not get it. They're only taking 25, and I'm sure that several thousand people applied for it. But I did apply for it. What it would be is I would be the liaison for people in the state, or maybe even in the region, but I figure in the state, who wanted to apply for time on the James Webb Space Telescope once it flies, we hope, next year. So when you apply for telescope time, you essentially write a proposal, and then they rank the proposals based on, you know, maybe the effectiveness or how important it is to the scientific body of work, or just the doability of it. And so for smaller schools, it's kind of hard to get on there, and that was kind of the point that I made. I said, you know, we're a small state, we're a small school within that state. Well, we're not a small school, but we're a state college. We're not a private school. We're not an R1 school. And I said it would be really neat if we gave the kids in this state something to dream and hope for, and, you know, maybe getting to use the James Webb would be that thing. And I wrote that in my application. We'll see. I know it's a long shot, but I had to try. You know, had to try. So anyway, one of the things that I wanted to share that came across my feed was a story about the Ozark Chinquapin chestnut tree. The Ozark Chinquapin chestnut tree actually was believed to be extinct. There was a blight that came through in the early to mid 1900s that killed almost all of the native chestnut trees in North America. The Ozark Chinquapin is a very specific breed to the Ozark Mountains. It has some adaptations. They're very specific to the Ozark Mountains. But it turns out that some samples were found in the Ozarks, the Missouri Ozarks, and there is a gentleman that is working with the Missouri State Parks to repopulate the trees. And he has, this is very covert operation. He doesn't want any interference with these trees. And so he has 15 plots of these trees growing around in the super secret places in the Ozarks where he's trying to restore the Ozark Chinquapin. And he's starting to see the tree make a comeback. You know, the problem is since the trees were affected by this blight, but he's tried to take the trees that seem to have the resistance to the blight, because the ones that survived clearly had some resistance or they would have died too, and he's breeding the healthiest trees with crossbreeding the healthiest trees. But when you crossbreed trees, it takes a few years to see if the results that you got were favorable. It's not that it's that fast a process. It's not like breeding even animals where within a year or two you see the outcome of your breeding program. So they're trying to develop some hybrids where they cross the Chinquapin with the Chinese chestnut, which are blight resistant. But at any rate, so I thought it was really neat because it was one of the big food sources for bears and deer and coyotes. And so to have it restored to its rightful place here in the Ozarks, I thought would be a really neat thing to see happen. So what they do is they collect leaves, they test them to see if they have any of the blight spores on them, and then they can take one leaf from the tree and inject it with blight and see if it reacts and see if it has a chance to be resistant to it. And then they use those, if those trees pass the test, then those are the ones they use for the cross-pollination study. So it'd be really cool to see the Ozark Chinquapin come back. So I thought that was a neat science thing that they were doing. I'll link the article from earth.com about this process that's going on. So isn't that neat? Science is amazing. Anyway, so we're going to move on now and talk about farm life. Okay, so farm life has been kind of dominating what's going on since I'm teaching online. I've got one more week of that, but then I'm done for the summer. So a couple of things that I thought would be interesting to talk about. We have been riding every day, as I had mentioned. I ride every day because I meet the kids on Wednesdays and do extra help. I had some kids pick up some special bonus coupons for extra help at Christmas time, so I've been meeting them. We've been working with Bo. We're back to riding Bo consistently after he had his little spook the other day. So the kids have been working with him on the ground, and then we got on him and rode him. And he did great, and he really trusts the kids that have been working with him. Well, kids and women. There's grown women helping him too. And Melissa, one of the adults that has been riding him, actually rode him in our jump class the other day and jumped him. He did so good. It was a big deal. So I'll put that video clip in at the end of this segment. I also had a private lesson with Denise on Flame, and it went so well. We had a really great ride. I was very pleased. On Wednesdays, we've been working on desensitization with Bo and also with Tuffy. It's actually Bo's half-sister. They had the same mother, and she's been a little bit spooky, so we did a desensitization day, and that video is pretty hysterical. We got all kinds of things going on. I was flapping an umbrella around, and somebody else was flapping a clipboard, and the kids were throwing rocks up against the wall to make noise and shaking a paddle that has rattles in it and stuff. So it was kind of cool that day. Monday, or day before yesterday, we went and picked up a new horse for the program. There was a friend of mine had a really nice paint gelding available, and we were able to purchase him for the program. I think he's going to fit right in. So I drove Miss Marianne down to get that. Also, too, I purchased the timers I had mentioned. You know, on our play day events, the kids are getting fast enough now that reaction time on the judge's part could matter. So they make timers that are essentially electric eyes, and I use them, I think, in marathons and stuff too. And so they have these timers where when you pass through them going one way, it starts the clock, and when you come back, it shuts the clock off. And they run off an app on your phone, so you can know your time just like the timer person does too. So we've been wanting a set of them, and I found a set for relatively inexpensive, and so I went ahead and ordered them, and we're going to have a jackpot to pay me back, because I said I would contribute a certain amount of money to them, and then the jackpot run would help pay me back for the rest of it. So I wanted us to have them, so I was going to pay for a third, and then we'll try to raise the money for the other 2/3. So that's been going on over there. Miss Marianne is doing a little bit better. She's still a little stove up from getting bucked off of her horse the other day. So, but, you know, progress is being made with all the horses, which is a good thing. Here, the animals all seem to be doing pretty well. Just kind of muddling on through. It hasn't been super duper hot yet, although I know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. I still haven't put the fans out on my rabbits. They've actually been staying cool with cool water and with ice bottles, so that's been a blessing to not have to run the fans just yet. The garden is doing great. I'm really proud of myself for keeping up with it. Of course, I'm going to be out of town for 4 days, and it'll probably get away from me then, but I've actually kept up with it pretty well, and it's been fairly productive. I've been able to eat out of the garden several days, and it's been delicious and fun. And I picked up a few supplies this morning when I went for my feed store run, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of canning the next couple of days. So I think I'm going to can pepper slices, and I'm going to make chow chow, and pickles, and pickled squash. Trying to remember. I'm going to can some chili beans. I need to finally can my chili beans. I'm trying to remember, there was, salsa verde. I'm going to make salsa verde, and I'm also going to make, I picked up some peaches from a local supplier. I'm going to make some peach jam. So I've got all that coming up in the next few days, get that knocked out. And then, you know, we're coming up on, you know, it's July 3rd now. So my summer break is about half over. Gotten a lot done. Still got a few more things I want to get done. On Friday morning, my plan, or tomorrow morning, I need to go up to the barn and finish cleaning up my tack room and put everything back. And then I started painting the barn trim, and I need to finish that. I started it back in the fall of last year, and I need to finish painting the barn trim. So the animals all seem to be doing really well for the most part. You know, the cow, I never did find her. I had some people ask, you know, I don't know what happened to her. I guess if she's not wandered off the side of the mountain somewhere and is just hanging out where I can't find her, she has died, which is a shame. But, you know, unfortunately, when you live on a farm and you have livestock, you're going to have dead stock eventually. It's just a shame because she was a younger cow and she was one of my better ones. So, hay is coming in. I've made a deal for some hay. I sold my hay mower to a guy I traded him for hay for the next 2 years. And it was kind of sad to see it go, because that is a link that I had with my father. But the fact of the matter is, it was sitting out there unused, and it was just going to waste, and it was just going to rust or rot or whatever. And I just had to be realistic and say, you know, yeah, go ahead and take it. So, it's going to work out where I'm going to get some extra hay because of the deal, which will be great. My fruit trees, I have quince. I was so excited. I thought they had all fallen off, and I went out the other day and looked, and there's like 5 or 6 quince on that quince tree, so I'm really excited about that. Are you cold? What's the matter? You cold? Or are you just listening? Listening? Okay. You're sure cute. Okay. Anyway, so I was pretty tickled about that. I've got quince. I've been picking zucchini and squash and tomatoes and Lots of peppers. My peppers have been very productive. I even have a couple of ghost peppers, so that's pretty exciting. I have an office neighbor that just loves ghost peppers. She's from Trinidad, so she loves ghost peppers. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I did have one thing that I wanted to share with you. The most recent edition of Arkansas Agriculture, which is a publication by Farm Bureau, had an interesting I'm going to sit you down, baby. Had an interesting article in it called Weathering Storms about facing and managing stress in agriculture. So this has to do with all the flooding and the bad weather. And it was an article about all the flooding that's happened and how it can be hard on mental health of farmers. And I mentioned already about the mental health conditions of a lot of the farmers, and it said, it's been a disastrous spring for Arkansas farmers, from the seemingly endless rains and the flooding of the Arkansas River to the impact of ongoing tariff and trade battles. 2019 is shaping up to be an extremely difficult year for those who make their living off the land. So it talks about that, but what I thought was neat is it has a strategies for the coping toolbox in here. It has lists of things that you could do for physical well-being, mental well-being, and emotional and spiritual well-being. And they were talking about, you know, for your physical well-being, it says get a medical checkup, eat a healthful breakfast, drink 4 to 8 glasses of water a day. These are all things that everybody should do anyway. Receive a neck or back massage, hug a loved one or a friend, abstain from alcohol, tobacco, or drugs, do gentle stretching during a break or to warm up and cool down. Okay, so those are all things that we should do anyway, but these are not things that, you know, as the old-timey farmers would necessarily think of doing. Mental, take 10 minutes and reflect on your blessings, which I was talking with somebody the other day about words and thoughts have intent. And so, you know, I don't necessarily believe in the attraction equation, or not the attraction equation. What is it? The power of positive thinking. No, there's another word. There's another book that came out. Anyway, drawing necessarily, but I do believe that you can put yourself in a bad mental headspace if you are constantly thinking negative things. And if you're in a bad mental headspace, that's got to affect your physical well-being. So on the mental strategies include, as I said, take 10 minutes to reflect on your blessings, write your thoughts in a journal or notebook, spend 30 minutes doing something with your hands, draw, carve, knit, watch a video that makes you laugh, attend a class or seminar to learn something new or of interest to you, reach out to someone for support or help, spend 10 minutes to plan your day and priorities, and take regular 5 to 10 minute breaks in your day to relax and recharge. And then you're an emotional and spiritual column. It says tell a loved one what you appreciate about him or her. Reflect on and forgive yourself for mistakes, which I think is really important. Pray or meditate. Do random acts of kindness. Express thank you to someone daily. Write down 3 things you are grateful for daily. So again, you know, positivity. Oh, The Secret. The Secret is that book I was thinking of. I don't necessarily subscribe to everything that's in there, but I do believe that you can reframe a lot of yourself and what's going on in your life if you just try to get yourself out of a negative headspace. And I know that's not always possible. But anyway, what I like is the Extension Service has put out several pamphlets, including Managing Farm Stress and Pursuing Wellness, and then they have one called Farming and Ranching in Tough Times, and then also they include information for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And I think it's really important because mental health is something in this country that we don't talk nearly enough about, and it's been sort of a taboo subject. You know, even now it's still kind of taboo, and so you know, people don't. I have high blood pressure, and I would never think twice about taking my high blood pressure medication as showing a sign of weakness. You know, same thing if you take an antidepressant. You should never think twice about that, because that is a situation in your body that's physical that you can do something about. And then there are other things, of course, with the high blood pressure. There are things that I can do external to taking medication, like my diet and my exercise, and there are some things that I can do to help with that. But the fact is, I do believe that science gives us things that we can do better so we can live a better life. So I thought it was interesting that that was in the Arkansas Agricultural Magazine. So anyway, so that's all I've got to say about that. So we're going to close out with a few final thoughts. Addison, just come around if you need to. Gusty's like, yeah, y'all are silly. Good job. See, this is what happens when you come to extra lessons with Miss Deborah. You have to kick barrels around while you're leading your horse.
Pull out any. So you got to give that little half halt before you start your trot. All right. Yes. Very good. That's fine. Really good. Good trot. It's like an 8 for real. It's nice. There you go. Just think it. Yeah, good. All right, so even...
Okay, well, for my final thoughts, I kind of gave some of it away at the beginning, didn't I, today? But if you're still with me, I'm glad. You know, I feel like I have to be honest to who I am and what my belief systems are. You know, I mean, I think that no one should be surprised by that. Oh, where are you going, buddy? Oh, goodness. Okay, so I kind of wanted to piggyback off of what I said at the beginning for my final thoughts. We had a situation occur on the campus where during Pride Month, there was a sign put up in support of the LGBT students outside of one of the campus buildings. And there were some complaints, and our administration chastised us and took it down, or not us, but the people that put it up and took it down, without really thinking about the impact. There's intent versus impact, right? That's one of the things that I've learned in my diversity training is, and we all know this realistically because we've all hurt someone without meaning to. So our intent was not hurtful, but the impact was. And you don't get to decide how someone else feels. And so the impact of this was to make our LGBTQ community feel very ostracized and unwelcome on campus, and there was a huge backlash. And unfortunately, it was not handled very well. I have a very good friend who is a PR professor, and she was just going, "Oh boy, this, you should have talked to us before you did anything about this." And she wrote a very important post because, and I've had this happen multiple times, where because as a college professor, they are assuming that I am in there corrupting their children with my liberal slop. And I'm indoctrinating them, and I'm taking away everything that they believe and warping their minds and all this. And no, that's not what I do. Do I make them think about things outside their bubble? Absolutely. Do I make them think about things that might affect other people versus just themselves? You bet. I don't ever try to mold their opinion, but I do try to give them the other side of the story, or more information, or just teach them to come at a situation thinking about impact versus intent. And my friend Amy wrote this, and I thought it was really good, and I wanted to share it. It was a Facebook post that she put up. It said, "Parents and society at large often fret that higher education will make their children, quote, liberal through some sort of agenda of indoctrination. After 20 years in higher ed, I have been transformed into a progressive activist and ally because my narrow categories couldn't contain the beauty and diversity of my students, whom I respect and love. My students have been my teachers, and I outgrew the boxes I'd largely inherited. Thus, it was my relationships that changed my ideology, not the other way around. As the song I love declares, Jesus loves us, this I know, and there are no exceptions." I really liked that. Even though I don't self-identify as a Christian, I like the intent of that and the impact. And she's eloquently put into words what I have ineloquently tried to say when people have come at me with the "you're corrupting our youth" argument. I reject that hypothesis. I reject that narrative. The only thing I am guilty of is trying to say, like Auntie Mame said in the movie, I'm trying to open his mind and let them see things that they never dreamed were possible, and I'm not going to let them stay in some little box, so I found a really good poem, and that's the last piece that I'm going to read today. It's called "I Am a Teacher and I Am Proud," and it's from the teachonomy.com website. "I am proud to be a part of a group of individuals that do what they do for the love of the job and for the student, and not the desire of the dollar. I am proud to be part of a profession where our daily employees are in our care for 1 year, yet 5, 10, and even 20 years later they come back searching specifically for you in hopes to be able to say thank you. I am proud to have colleagues who inspire me every day to be a better teacher. I am proud to be in a position where at times I'm a mentor for those who need it, a shoulder to cry on when no one else will listen, a much needed positive authority figure to help guide the way. I am proud to be a part of a job that doesn't feel like a job, where every day, no matter how I am feeling, I have students that are happy to see me and love that I am there. I am proud to be in a profession where if I am absent, I am genuinely missed by the people who I am serving. It always feels good to have students say, 'We missed you.' I am proud to be part of something nobody can possibly understand until they set foot in a classroom and teach. No theory, textbook, or study can truly define what teachers do each day to make an impact. I am proud that I get to come alongside families every day knowing that they trust me with their most precious and valuable gift. I am proud to be part of a profession that creates all other professions. I am proud to be on this journey with my fellow teachers because together we have priceless opportunity to impact, influence, and inspire the future of our world." So, I want to thank y'all for being here, especially today. Sorry this has been a little bit scattered. I want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes and the kind words. I want to thank all of those of you who constantly give me positive feedback on here. Everyone is welcome in this space as long as we're kind to one another. So I hope that we can continue to move forward that way together, y'all, and make the world a better place. So anyway, I appreciate y'all being here. I'm getting a little emotional. Appreciate y'all hanging with me for this 1.5 years that I've been doing this. You know, I hope you appreciate my honesty and openness about who I am and what I think. And just thank you for being my podcast family. I appreciate y'all more than you know. So, Willie, you gonna wake up? Oh, we're sleepy. So, until next time, whoops, turn my cup over. You gonna wake up? So until we see y'all again, what are you gonna tell them, Willie? Y'all be good to each other and take care of each other. And what, Willie? He's sleepy. Peace out, y'all. Bye.